Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. As always, we got quite a couple stories to cover, so let's go ahead and get right into this. First things first, the AEW Fight Forever release date was revealed. This coming from the AEW Games Twitter account, quote, AEW Fight Forever is available June 29th, pre-order and wishlist at, and then it goes ahead and links their website. I know many wrestling game fans have been waiting for this one for quite a while, so you guys will finally be getting your hands on this within the next month. And for our next story, the Ys X Nordics release date was announced. This coming from Gamatsu, quote, Ys X Nordics will launch for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and Switch on September 28th in Japan for 8,580 yen. A limited edition will also be available for 12,100 yen. There is no official US release date at this current point in time. However, these games obviously always end up coming to America and going worldwide at one time or another. So as soon as we get an actual official US release date, I will obviously let you guys know. However, if you are interested in this series or if you like this series and you want to get your hands on this game as soon as possible, you could possibly get an imported copy. Just keep in mind that the packaging will obviously all be in Japanese, but if you're into a series like this, I'm sure you're already aware of that. And for our next story, I actually found this one to be kind of funny. So the new Inspector Gadget game will in fact be coming to Xbox now. So let me go ahead and just kind of read this article off to you guys. This coming from Pure Xbox, quote, the title in question is Smart Tales Games Inspector Gadget Mad Time Party, which is currently planned to launch on PlayStation and PC platforms. When asked why that was the case, Mike Royds hinted that there isn't enough demand for the game to launch on Xbox right now. The developer of this game then went on to say, if the demand is strong enough, we will consider the possibility of offering the title on Xbox. And then this story was updated the following day, where they go on to say, well, we didn't expect to be giving you an update this quickly. Just a day after announcing that Inspector Gadget Mad Time Party will be coming to Xbox, quote, if the demand is strong enough, publisher Mike Royds has decided that the demand is indeed strong enough, and therefore an Xbox version will be available in digital form. Crazy. Here's what the team had to say on Twitter, quote, Xbox gamers, we've heard you loud and clear. Aware of the strong demand for this title, we have worked hard, and now we can assure you that Inspector Gadget Mad Time Party will be available on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One in digital format. I'm honestly surprised that they weren't going to be putting this game on Xbox platforms originally, because that is a huge install base. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know the Xbox One didn't necessarily sell as well as the PlayStation 4. However, when it comes to the Series X and the Series S sales compared to the PS5, it's definitely a lot closer than it was in the last generation, and especially when you consider the fact that, Microsoft has the Xbox Series S, it's most definitely quite a sizable install base. In fact, between the Series X and S, I believe it's at about 31 million split, with the PS5, having sold 31 million units, and then the Series X and S having sold over 20 million units so far. So, not to mention the 51 million units that the Xbox One sold. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing long term that this game is coming to all of the platforms, because not only will this make it more accessible and available to more gamers, but it'll definitely help them from a sales perspective in the long term, because in total, that's 70 million units that it'll be available to now that it wouldn't have been before. And for our next story, the Mortal Kombat 1 PC minimum requirements were revealed, and while we could focus on that and the different graphics cards and CPUs and stuff you need to run the game efficiently, I want to draw attention to the storage requirements, because this will give us a good idea of how much it'll, take up on our Xboxes and PlayStations and such. The minimum amount of storage you're gonna need is 100 gigabytes. So yeah, it's safe to say that we're at that point where most AAA releases going forward are probably gonna be hovering around that 100 gigabyte mark. It's been that way for a while. Most games have been rocking around the 70 to 90 gigabyte range, but within especially the last year, we've seen a lot of more games going for that 120 gigabyte mark, and it seems like this is the new norm that we're headed towards. A lot of people see this and they're like, oh my gosh, 100 gigabytes, and I mean, it's understandable, that is a lot of storage, but you also got to remember, games are only taking up more and more space, and if we're gonna be honest, the amount of storage at the Series X and the PS5, and especially the Series S, the amount that it launched with, if I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't acceptable. We need way more storage on our next-gen devices, and considering the fact that, these consoles are real stingy with which hard drives they actually support that you can use, in terms of, external storage, that is, yeah, it's kind of unacceptable that the consoles launch with, such a little amount of storage, especially with the PS5 not even having a terabyte. But one thing we do have to keep in mind is that these games are only gonna be taking up more and more storage, higher fidelity graphics, uncompressed audio, the list goes on. So yeah, just make sure you have enough room on your hard drive before you pick this game up. Anyways, for our next story, this one is relatively quick. It's just about when we can expect to see some actual Mortal Kombat 1 gameplay. So this coming from Jeff Keighley on Twitter, quote, "Don't miss the world gameplay premiere of Mortal Kombat 1 when Ed Boon joins Jeff Keighley live on stage at Summer Game Fest on Thursday, June 8th. So there you have it, June 8th, which is only about like 2 weeks away at this point, which is crazy. We'll be able to see some more gameplay of Mortal Kombat 1. So I'm really excited. Well, I shouldn't say more gameplay because honestly, I mean, we kind of saw some gameplay in that initial trailer, but it was mostly just CGI stuff aside from like the fatalities and stuff at the end. So I'm really interested to see what NetherRealm has been cooking up. What is their spin on the formula going to be for this game? Each Mortal Kombat game tends to, you know, actually feel like genuinely unique compared to the previous entries. They always find some new way to shake things up. So I'm really excited to see what they have in store with Mortal Kombat 1. And for our next story, this was one that made me really happy to read. Dead Island sold 2 million copies so far. This coming from WCCF Tech, quote, "Dead Island sales have surpassed 2 million units globally, the parent company of publisher Deep Silver Embracer Group has revealed. And Embracer Group has now revealed that Dead Island 2 has sold well over 2 million copies of the game worldwide, thereby becoming the biggest launch ever for publishers Deep Silver and PlayOn, I think I say it, in both units and revenue. Quite the achievement for the publishers considering the fact that the game's development has been in limbo for quite some time." Yeah, that's an understatement. Talk about 10 years of literal development, HE double hockey stick. Any longtime viewers of this show know I absolutely adore Dead Island, and I absolutely love Dead Island 2. I loved it so much that I literally beat it in like one day. Obviously, when a game like this has been in development, HE double hockey stick, for so long, it's a little iffy, or it's a little unknown as to how it's actually going to perform once it releases. It could either bomb, it could do really well, so I'm really glad to see that this one turned out to actually do quite well. And considering that this game launched at $70, that means that they've racked in at least $140 million off of the game sales alone, and that obviously doesn't include anything else like pre-order editions, which obviously play a huge part into that. So yeah, it's definitely safe to say that they're slowly but surely making their money back and investment back on this one. And for our next story, this one's kind of interesting because in a way it feels like a sly attempt at Microsoft kind of like firing back at the CMA, you know, because the CMA, obviously, they disapproved of the whole Microsoft Activision acquisition because of concerns about cloud gaming and the competition, yada, yada, yada. But this move that Xbox made kind of seemed like a subtle response to that. Let's just go ahead and cover this. Xbox adds first-party games to NVIDIA GeForce Now. This coming from Xbox directly, quote, "We're thrilled to share that starting today, NVIDIA GeForce Now cloud gaming members in the UK, the US, the European Union, and around the world can stream Gears 5, and on May 25th, we will be able to enjoy fan-favorite Deathloop, Grounded, and Pentiment. This is just the beginning stage of our forward-thinking 10-year partnership with NVIDIA to make PC games from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda available to their GeForce Now members. Together, we're accelerating access to players around the globe by letting them choose how and when they game. Following this initial release, we'll continue to add more content from our portfolio on a regular basis to ensure players can always find a new and exciting game. News and release dates will be shared via GFN Thursday updates," end quote. So, yeah, like I was saying, it kind of seems like this is like a subtle or sly response to like the whole CMA thing. Obviously, NVIDIA and Microsoft already signed this deal before, you know, the 10-year contract of where Microsoft is going to make a bunch of their first-party games available on GeForce Now and for GeForce Now users. So this was something that was inevitable and would happen eventually, but I don't know, I feel like the fact that they went on this whole long blog, you know, writing out this whole article about it and then like posting on social media and stuff like that about it, you know, I feel like they're trying to make this as big of a deal as possible, or trying to get this out to as many ears as possible, specifically the CMA, so that hopefully they can, you know, reverse their decision of disapproving of the deal, because again, I do believe that this deal should go through, and I'm sure Microsoft is doing everything in their power behind the scenes right now to allow this to go through, and especially with the EU actually ending up approving the deal, which was not necessarily a surprise to me, but I was definitely on the fence as to if they would approve or disapprove of the deal, and thankfully they did approve it. So now we're just waiting on the FTC, and hopefully we could see the CMA kind of reverse course on their decision, because truthfully, when you look at everything from like a logical perspective, this acquisition will do nothing but benefit us, the consumers and gamers. But as always, we'll just kind of ride this out, see what happens next, and I'll update you guys as soon as we know more. And for our next story, while we're talking about Xbox, let me go ahead and make everybody feel old real quick, okay? The Xbox One was announced 10 years ago now. Yeah, that's right. This coming from the Game Awards Twitter account, quote, 10 years ago today, Xbox revealed the Xbox One at a special event on the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington, end quote. And yeah, that event with Don Matrick, and it was an event. It was definitely the event of all time. We won't get into all the nitty gritty here, you know. No need to beat the dead horse. Microsoft already know what they did wrong. They've moved on. They've gone on to do much better things since then. Let's just be glad that we're away from that Microsoft mindset, you know, that time and that space. I'm glad that they're back to focusing on, you know, video games. And for our next story, we finally have an update on the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. This coming from Ubisoft directly, quote, "At what stage is Prince of Persia the Sands of Time remake at now?" And then in response, the developer said, "In terms of the development stage, we're in conception right now. Since we took over the project, we've been looking at feedback from the community and finding our own way of delivering the game. Now we're building up the team, defining the priorities, putting prototypes together, testing elements, and looking at how we can include community feedback in the development as well. It's still in an early stage and players should not expect to hear more about the game this year, but rest assured that we're putting all our strengths and heart into this project," end quote. So, yeah, it's been a while since we heard anything about this. Obviously, they dropped a trailer however long ago at this point. I mean, you're watching it on your screen right now. The feedback was a bit hit or miss to that initial trailer, to say the very least. So, you know, it went back in the oven, and it seems like it's going to be sitting in the oven for a while longer. Hopefully, it isn't like one of those things where there's a lot of, like, turmoil and development HE double hockey stick behind the scenes. I'm hoping that from a development standpoint, you know, everything's just kind of like going relatively smoothly for this game. That being said, I am really curious to see what they are cooking up, and furthermore, I really want to get my hands on this game, okay? I absolutely love the original Prince of Persia trilogy. I also love the, you know, the other games that they put out on the Xbox and 360 and the PS3. But that original trilogy, especially with like Sands of Time and stuff like that, like it holds such a special place in my heart. So I'm really excited to see what they put out, but yeah, as of now, just take your time, please, please, just don't ruin this remake. Whatever you do, please don't find a way to ruin it. Just take your time. Treat it with care, treat it with passion, treat it with love. I will wait another 3 years if I have to. I'll wait as long as I have to just to make sure that this remake comes out in the best quality that it can, because honestly, this game deserves nothing less than the best treatment. Especially considering the fact that there's going to be a whole new generation experiencing this game, so you definitely wouldn't want to tarnish their first experience with Prince of Persia Sands of Time with a shoddy remake, to say the least. So yeah, please just make this the best that you can. And for our next story, I literally jumped out of my seat and gave like a whole round of applause when I first heard this. Final Fantasy 16 will not have a day one patch. Like, can we please just get a round of applause for that? Like, yes. Anyway, this coming from Game Informer, quote, "Creative Business Unit 3 isn't working on a day one patch, a revelation that continues to become rarer with each new release in games. Director Hiroshi Takai gave me a few reasons as to why. The first is that the team is confident in its final build of Final Fantasy 16. The second is that he and producer Naoki Yoshida and the rest of the CBU3 team believe the game should be ready to go at launch, recognizing that not everyone has access to the internet needed to download a day one patch in light of Final Fantasy 16's global simultaneous release. So as of right now, we won't be downloading a big patch on June 22nd when the game hits PlayStation 5. However, Takai notes that CBU3 is testing the game daily and searching for bugs, and things could change as a result, but right now, like in the days of old Final Fantasy, this entry should work entirely as expected out of the box," end quote, which, you know, I don't really have a whole lot more to add to this. I understand why day one patches have to exist in the modern scene, especially, you know, with greedy publishers trying to meet their fiscal year expectations and this, that, and the other. It just sucks when most days when you buy a game now, like, you know, even if it's physical and it's on disc, usually the game isn't even on the disc. Like, the game just comes from the day one patch. But as of now, thankfully, from the sounds of things, Final Fantasy 16 will not be one of those games, and that is, the first time that I've heard that in a really, really long time. And for our next story, Nintendo announced the Nintendo Switch online games for the month of May. This coming from Nintendo on Twitter, quote, "Super Mario Advance, Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2, and Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3 are all coming to hashtag Nintendo Switch for hashtag Nintendo Switch Online, plus expansion pack members on May 26th. Here we go," end quote, which May 26th is actually the day that you guys will be seeing this video. So if you guys are watching this, go turn on your Switch, go download these games, because all of these are literally phenomenal. And for our last story, this is less of a story and just like a recap of the showcase that happened yesterday. We're not going to be going too in-depth on each of the games because there was a lot of games that were covered, literally 30 plus. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be going through very slowly and reading the names. I'm not going to say it too fast, because if I say the names too fast, they might blend in and you might think that like two different games were actually like one game or something like that. So I'm going to read this slowly, and I'll like take breaks in between saying each name, so then you know. And then if any of these like pique your interest, or if you've been waiting to see more of these games, then you can kind of just go through and, you know, take a look at them on YouTube or whatever. But anyway, let's go ahead and go through this. Helldivers 2, Fairgames, Neva, the Talos Principle 2, the Plucky Squire, Sword of the Sea, Foamstars, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. And by the way, this is a remake of MGS3, and can I just tell you guys, I am so excited for this. It is not even funny. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and keep reading through these. Final Fantasy 16 got a new trailer, so you can go watch that if that interests you. Alan Wake 2, which is only going to be a digital release, unfortunately. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, coming late 2023. RE4 Remake for VR. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Marathon. Spider-Man 2 got new gameplay, 10 plus minutes in fact, so you can go watch that if that interests you. Destiny 2 The Final Shape, which is an expansion. Dragon's Dogma 2, I've been waiting for this one for so long, it's not even funny. Street Fighter 6, we got an exclusive look at story mode. Phantom Blade 0, Ghost Runner 2, Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean, Towers of Kasaba, I'm not really sure how to say that properly, I'm sorry. Revenant Hill, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Ultros, Tower of Fantasy, Arizona Sunshine 2, Concord, Immortals of Avium, and Project Q, which is Sony's new handheld. Basically, what this thing is, it's, you know, it's not like a PS Vita or a PSP, unfortunately. You know, if I was in charge, I would have been hoping for a PS Vita too. But no, essentially what this is, it's not like actually a handheld, it's a streaming device. So yeah, think similar to like a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch. You know, you can play it on the go, but it's a streaming device only. So you can play your PS5 games, but they're going to be streamed through the cloud. So yeah, I'm definitely not picking this one up. And then they also went ahead and announced that they're going to be putting out some wireless gaming earbuds, which, you know, that's cool, but, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the earbuds actually do look pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. Personally, I'm not much of a wireless guy. I like having wires. I don't know. I just something about wireless earbuds. I feel like I'd probably lose them too easily. But when it comes to like the earbuds themselves, you know, lossless quality. There's no latency or whatever. Like, it's cool. They sound good. They'd probably be good for gaming. But yeah, I don't know. Between the streaming device, I just, oh god. Like, why a streaming-only device? There's not even an option to, like, download the game. Like, couldn't they give us an option to, like, play the games natively on this thing? And I don't know. Even if I had to play it at, like, 540p and 20 FPS, I'd rather do that than just stream all the games. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that was all the games that were announced. And if you kind of, like, if you weren't able to understand some of the titles or if you need to see how they're supposed to be spelled, if you go down to the description, I will have every single game listed right down there in the order that I said them, so you can just kind of go down there and copy and paste the title if you want to go look up a trailer for it. And yeah, I don't know, that was the showcase. Honestly, I thought that it was a really good showcase. Like, I was impressed with a lot of the stuff that I was seeing. Some people were expecting more, like, oh, they wanted like a Bloodborne 2 or a Bloodborne remaster or a bunch of other crazy stuff, like seeing more of that Last of Us multiplayer game, or just, I don't know, I guess they wanted more announcements. Personally, I feel like people set their expectations way too high and they set themselves up for disappointment every single time. I just go into these things expecting to see new games, excited to see new games, and that's exactly what I got. And actually, I was blown away. This surpassed my expectations because I went into it with literally no expectations. I just go into it expecting to see some games. I don't get myself all hyped up, and what do you know, I genuinely love this showcase, and I am genuinely, like, excited and am now heavily anticipating trying out some of the games that were announced. So yeah, I don't know. If anybody felt disappointed by this showcase, stop going into showcases with expectations. Like, seriously, like, everybody sets themselves up for failure and disappointment every single time. Like, stop doing that. Just go into it expecting to see some games, and you'll be fine. Because me, personally, like, every time that people are like, oh, this showcase was so disappointing, whether it be a Nintendo Direct or an Xbox Direct, I never feel that way. I'm always the one that's just genuinely excited because it's video games, and I love video games. But anyway, yeah, there was a lot of promising stuff here, and I am super excited for the next couple of years of gaming. There's a lot of stuff up the pipeline, a lot of big events that have been happening lately, and a lot of big events to come yet. So, yeah, something tells me that the rest of this year and next year and probably even like 2025 are going to be pretty big years. I mean, come on, they literally announced the MGS3 remake, and then we heard about how Prince of Persia, I'm assuming we're probably going to hear more about it either next year or like 2025. Like, just remakes alone, there's a lot happening. And then when you factor in all the new games, I'm honestly I'm really excited. But anyways, yeah, that's all the stories that I got for you guys this week. Now I definitely want to hear from you guys. Are you excited for AEW Fight Forever? What are your thoughts on the PlayStation Showcase? What are your thoughts on the fact that Final Fantasy 16 won't have a day one patch? For me, that's pretty exciting. Are you excited for the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake? Whatever it is, whatever you're thinking, I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. But anyways, this is Weekly GCap. New episodes go live every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, so if you want to catch them as soon as they go live, well then, now you know when to be here. But anyways, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.